So because the way that you live the Christian life does end up having an impact on whether you stay in the Christian life, and therefore the third use of the law does end up having an impact on your salvation, some people could say, well, how does that not inevitably result in synergism? God does his part and I do my part, and by working with God, I make it to the end and am saved. And that's a serious question, because we know we are not saved by any works of our own. We have to be very clear that none of our works is what makes God justify us. Like every single one of our works, and the formula of Concordia is very clear on this throughout in the article on the third use and in the article about free will, that all of the good that we do is done in the power of the Holy Spirit, and just simply believing the gospel and remaining faithful in that way is done by the power of the Holy Spirit. And if the Holy Spirit should abandon us, we would lose it in an instant. And so that is a guard against synergism right there, to believe that nothing that I do gets me any credit. And in fact, believing in the gospel is not something that I do, except secondarily by the grace of God. I give to God all the credit for calling me by the gospel, enlightening me with his gifts, sanctifying and keeping me in a true faith. But the New Testament does talk about synergism. There is a right way of talking about it too. Working together with God. Paul talks about working together with God, and Paul talks about the people who work together with him as he works together with God. He says in 2 Corinthians 5 that God has given him the ministry of reconciliation. And so therefore I appeal to you on behalf of God, be reconciled to God. So God does work with us. And he works with us to do things that are certainly good. And some of those good things result in salvation, for the people to whom we minister, and, sometimes might be used by him to keep us in the faith too. But it's his work. It's his work through us, and it's not anything that we contribute. And so if I do end up being able to look back on something I did in my life, some choice I made in my life that led to me believing in Jesus as opposed to not believing in Jesus, that is not a contribution that I made from my own strength. That is an evidence, like a place by which the work of God in my life to bring me to Christ can be seen. And so, it was something that I did, but the merit in it was God's. I am not saved by anything that I do. I am saved by what God does, although he does work routinely through other people, and he might even work through me in order to effect my salvation. So that's one hedge against synergism, recognizing that even when some of my actions are in the chain of causation, it wasn't because I planned it that way. That was God's working from behind the scenes through me.